What's up, guys? Jordan here from Show Me Vegas with another episode of This Week in Vegas. Hey, it's been a little while, almost 3 weeks. The last 2 weeks we didn't have episodes. 2 weeks ago we were in Las Vegas. Last week we were just recuperating. We were exhausted from that trip, so we didn't put out an episode then. So there's quite a bit to catch up on this episode of This Week in Vegas, so let's get going. All right, some of the biggest news that has occurred in Las Vegas since the last time this vlog aired has got to be some name changes coming to properties on the Las Vegas Strip. The first being Bally's. Caesars Entertainment announced recently that Bally's was going to be rebranded into Horseshoe Las Vegas, and that the property is going to undergo some serious renovations, including the casino, the restaurants and lounges, including the exterior of the property. Now, some people had been speculating that Bally's was up for sale. Caesars has made no bones about the fact that they intend to sell one of their strip properties in this coming year, and Bally's was one of those properties that analysts had speculated might be on the sale block. But it turns out that based on this announcement, that's highly unlikely to happen. They're not going to go through the process of rebranding and remodeling a property that they intend to sell. So that's probably out. Now the attention is on Planet Hollywood. That seems to be the most likely one of the properties Caesars is looking to sell, but this transition to Horseshoe is going to be interesting to say the least. The reason Caesars owns the Horseshoe brand to begin with is because Caesars Entertainment, back then it was called Harrah's, they purchased Binion's Horseshoe downtown in 2004. They later sold Binion's, but they retained the Horseshoe name. They kept the naming rights to the Horseshoe brand whenever they sold off that property. So they still own it, and they haven't done anything with it since that time. And now it seems they've been saving it for a possible rebrand, and now we know where they're going to use it. So Bally's is going to be completely changed over. I see a lot of people saying that Bally's is being sold, and that's not the case. Caesars is not selling it. They're just rebranding it. Caesars Entertainment will still own and operate Horseshoe Las Vegas in the old Bally's building. If the Horseshoe name sounds familiar to you, it's probably because it used to be known downtown as Binion's Horseshoe. That was established by Benny Binion back in the 50s, and the Binion family ran that for a long period of time. It was best known as the birthplace of the World Series of Poker. Caesars Entertainment now owns the World Series of Poker brand because they acquired it when they bought the Horseshoe back in 2004. So it's a name that has a lot of history attached to it. It's a name that carries a lot of weight in the gambling community. It's synonymous with gambling, and so it looks like Caesars is going to try to rejuvenate that Bally's property with this change, and I, for one, like it. I think the Bally's property is really tired. I don't think it's a place that a lot of people consider when they come to Las Vegas, and I think a rebrand to the Horseshoe Las Vegas and a refresh of the property is definitely in order, so I'm kind of excited to see how it turns out. Now, we know that the front of the Bally's property is going to look a lot different already because they're going to demolish a portion of the bazaar shops there to make way for Blake Shelton's Old Red saloon and restaurant. So that was already going to be in place. Now I think that's going to be a good fit with the Horseshoe brand. It all seems to come together, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting when it's all said and done. They're going to get on this pretty quickly, looking at 2022 this year. So it's going to start to come together pretty quickly, I think. Now, speaking of Bally's, Bally's is becoming the Horseshoe, and the Tropicana may just become known as Bally's going forward. Bally's Corporation, who is actually buying the Tropicana, they're in the process of buying it right now. That deal was signed a while back but hasn't closed. It's expected to close this year. They're buying the Tropicana, and they stated this past week that they had big plans for that property, but they're still exploring what that's going to look like. It may come in the form of a top-to-bottom remodel of the Tropicana, and it may come in the form of tearing down the Tropicana and building something new altogether. What we do know is that in 2020, Caesars sold Bally's Atlantic City to a company then known as Twin River Worldwide Holdings, and in doing so, they also sold the Bally's brand to that company. That company since changed their name to Bally's Corporation. However, they did give Caesars the right to continue to use the Bally's name in Las Vegas, which they've done up until this most recent announcement. So, Caesars is going to cease to use the Bally's name, and when they do so, Bally's Corporation is going to start using that name at their Las Vegas property, which is currently known as the Tropicana. And of course, we've talked in this vlog in the past about how the Oakland Athletics are interested in the Tropicana site for a potential ballpark. Now, I did say, and this is starting to look a little bit more likely, I did say that the A's may be using Las Vegas as a pawn to just get what they want out of the city of Oakland, because they have recently made some headway into getting their new ballpark in Oakland, so they may not move to Las Vegas at all. However, if they do, they are still interested in that Tropicana site. I think, though, that that's becoming less and less likely. Number one, that they move to Las Vegas altogether, and number two, if they do, that they would build at that particular location. The Tropicana really has an interesting history. It's one of the few really historic properties left on the Las Vegas Strip, but it's also a bit of an oversight. I mean, I've been in the Tropicana just a handful of times, and it is about as forgettable as a casino can possibly be. It's dead, it's dated, the rooms don't look terribly nice, the exterior of the building is quite honestly pretty ugly. But it does have ties all the way back to the mob era. As a matter of fact, it had some very strong ties to skimming and the mob era, especially of the later 70s and 80s. But at any rate, it's no longer going to be known as the Tropicana starting some point in the near future, and it may not look like the Tropicana in the near future as well if they decide to completely remodel or tear it down altogether. Also happening in Las Vegas this past week is one of the coolest stories I've seen in a long time. It involves a gambler from Arizona who was gambling at Treasure Island and apparently won a jackpot, but neither he nor the casino realized it at the time. A man by the name of Robert Taylor was playing a progressive machine at Treasure Island on January 8th, and some type of communications error occurred with the slot machine, and apparently he left the casino not realizing he'd won anything. However, the casino analyzed the data from the machine and later determined that he should have been awarded a $229,000 jackpot. So from there, they took that information to the Nevada Gaming Control Board for help with an investigation to try to find out who this gambler was. The investigation included the review of multiple hours of surveillance footage across multiple gaming properties, numerous witness interviews, a study of electronic purchase records, and an analysis of ride-hailing information from the Nevada Transportation Authority. All of this to figure out who the guy was that was playing the machine when the jackpot should have been awarded. Eventually, they settled on this Robert Taylor. They didn't disclose where in Arizona he's from. However, they did inform him on January 28th, almost 3 weeks after he hit the jackpot, that he should have been awarded $229,000. He came back to Las Vegas this past week to collect his winnings. Now, that's a pretty cool story, and it makes you feel, hopefully, a little bit better about gambling and whether or not you're being treated fairly in the casino. These games are so heavily computerized these days that the data exists that they can do this sort of thing and actually track somebody down, and it's really cool to find out that they did. I can only imagine getting that phone call. I'm sure he thought somebody was trying to prank him, and he probably didn't believe it until he actually went back to Vegas to Treasure Island and had that check in hand. But just a really cool story. I report on jackpots on this vlog all the time, but I can honestly say I've never heard of a situation like that before. So there you have it for this week, your jackpot alert. Finally, in Las Vegas this week, Las Vegas has become a sports lover's paradise with the NHL All-Star Game and the NFL Pro Bowl taking place in Las Vegas in less than a week. The NHL All-Star Game has included some really cool festivities, including the skills challenge that took place over the water at the Bellagio fountains. That is a super cool idea. Now, when the NFL draft was supposed to take place in Las Vegas during the pandemic, they were going to set up the stage over the Bellagio fountains and actually take players out there by boat, which was a great idea. It's cool to see the NHL incorporating the Bellagio fountains. I mean, what's more iconic in Las Vegas over the last 20 years or so than the Bellagio fountains? So it's really neat to see that imagery on TV. And then, of course, the Pro Bowl was played at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday, February 6th. And of course, the Super Bowl is coming to Las Vegas in the future too. So Las Vegas is really establishing itself as a professional sports city. You would have to have been hiding under a rock somewhere over the past few years to not notice how much Las Vegas really took to the Golden Knights whenever that franchise first took the ice. The Raiders have been a little bit less well received by locals, but Raiders games are a hot ticket, especially with out-of-towners. The NBA is sure to be next. I think the NBA is a perfect fit for Las Vegas, and I can see an expansion franchise coming in the future. But now that the professional sports leagues are starting to take to gambling a little bit more, they're not downplaying it like they used to, Las Vegas is a perfect place for professional sports. You've got all the out-of-towners. I mean, who wouldn't want to travel to Las Vegas to watch their favorite team play? So a really exciting time to be a sports fan in Las Vegas or as a Las Vegas visitor. Hey, that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching this episode of This Week in Vegas. There's going to be a lot of content coming out on our channel soon since we just returned from a 5-day trip to Las Vegas. So we have a lot of videos planned. We've already released a couple since we came back. Just yesterday, I dropped a 360 video of the Bellagio Conservatory. Check that out. And don't forget to subscribe. As always, hit that thumbs up button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss this vlog or any of our other content. There's always more for us to show you on Show Me Vegas. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.